Today I want to explain about some miscellaneous concepts in TypeScript, that is default arguments, arrow functions, let keyword, const keyword, rest operator, destructuring, multi-line strings, string interpolation, reading elements from array. So this type of small topics I want to explain in this today's lesson. All these may not be completely new for a TypeScript, but anyway, when you compare to JavaScript, really these are new. See, some of these concepts are already available in other languages like Java, .NET, etc., but missing in JavaScript. So these concepts are really new from the JavaScript perspective, but already existing from other languages perspective. Anyway, always try to compare this TypeScript with JavaScript, because if you compare this TypeScript with other languages, you may get confusion sometimes. Better you come from the JavaScript perspective. It is like this concept is not there in JavaScript, but we have added in TypeScript. Like this, we have to think. The first one is default arguments. What is exactly the default arguments? You will set a default value for the parameter of a function or method. Then if you supply value for the parameter, the supplied value will be stored in the parameter. But if you don't supply value for the parameter, the default value will be automatically stored in the parameter. So generally speaking, in different classes, you will be writing different methods. So every method has one or more parameters, or you can say some input values. For example, you want to add the two numbers. For addition of two numbers, what are the input values do you require? A and B, two values you require, right? A and B. So those are called parameters. And what type of value that you want to receive? A value as well as B value. Two values you should be able to receive. I want to receive numbers. So A should be number data type, B should be number data type. So while calling this particular add method or add function, you must supply how many values? Two values you must supply. Both values should be what data type? Number data type. So for example, I'm just supplying a value add of 10, 20. We are trying to supply 10 into A, 20 into B. Okay, so now we can say A plus B means A plus B, that is 10 plus 20, that is 30 you will get. This is how a method works generally. But you will specify some default value for the parameter. Once you specify the default value for the parameter, if you supply the value, the supplied value only will be taken. If you don't supply the value for the parameter, the default value will be automatically stored in the parameter. So for example, you are supplying the default value something like 20. For this you mentioned 50. So these are the just default values, which means that if you don't supply the value for A and B respectively, then only A should be 20 and B should be 50. In case if we supply the value, the supplied value only will be taken automatically. At that time, this 20 and 50 will not be stored anywhere. So even now also if we give some value like this, suppose 100 comma 200, at that time also A will be equal to 100, B will be equal to 200. In the previous case, it was like A equal to 10 and B equal to 20. But next time, if we call the add method without passing any value like this, not passing any value, at that time, automatically the above mentioned default values will be taken, that is A equal to 20 and B equal to 50. So this is how the default arguments work. So in real-time application, for example, there is a method that do calculation of interest, but it requires interest rate as argument, interest percentage. So as per your requirement, suppose you want to say that 12% is the default interest rate. In case if you don't supply the value for this interest rate parameter, automatically you want to take a 12%. So you can just take equal to 12. So this will be the default value for this parameter, which will be taken automatically if you don't supply the value for the interest rate parameter. But in case if you supply, the supplied value only will be taken but not the default parameter. So let's check the same in the program. Default arguments.ts I'm going to create. So I'm going to define class sample. Sample is the name of the class. So new sample. We are trying to create an object for the sample class. And in this sample class, we have a method, something like calculate interest. Interest rate is a parameter. And it is going to print interest rate. Okay. And after creating object, we are trying to call this particular method calculate interest. So, and you must supply the value. For example, I'm just giving 10. So what exactly happens is when you execute the program, when the system see this particular class, it won't execute anything. System in the sense browser. So browser will not execute the class or method at any cost until you call it. So here we are creating an object for the class, then only the class will execute. Here the class execution means it will not execute the code of the method, just it will identify the list of properties and methods of the class. And after that, this second part of the statement will call the method, then only this particular method will execute. In this way, this part will call the class, this part will call the method. First we have to create object, then only we have to call the method. Right. Now I just take one HTML file also, default arguments.html. HTML head body syntax is same. Import in the JavaScript file. The JavaScript file will be automatically generated when we compile. To compile the program, go to the command prompt, cd : Angular 6am Then you can say TSC, it is a compiler name, TSC space default arguments.ts. Then it will automatically generate default arguments.js file. This file needs to be imported into the HTML file. Also, we can double click on HTML file to execute it. Now, how to open the console? To open the console, you can say right click, inspect element. Then you can go to console. Now we can see the value 10. That's fine. Because we have given 10, same value went to the interest rate variable and the same is printed here. That's fine. Okay, but I'm trying to specify some default value that is 12. I'm just compiling, refresh, but still we are getting same thing. What I told about default arguments, if you supply the value, the supplied value only will be taken into interest rate, but not the default value. But next time we are calling the same method without supplying any value. At that time, in this case only, the default value 12 will be taken into interest rate and this remaining code will execute. That's why you can see 12 in the second case. So that is about the default arguments. So you can also make it like suppose a simple interest you want to calculate. PNR. PNR by 100 is the actual formula. So just we will take interest is equal to PNR by 100. PNR by 100 is the actual formula. And we display the output like instead of creating object every time, we can store the object reference in a variable like yes, and we can call the yes dot calculate interest every time. Now, suppose the principal amount is 10,000, number of years 4 years, and the rate of interest is suppose 7. So here we will get 7. The interest rate will be taken as 7. So 1000 into 4 into 7 by 100 is the formula in this first case. In the second case, suppose 15,000 is a principal amount, number of years 3 suppose, and interest rate I am not supplying anything. Notice interest rate I am not supplying, then it will take it as a 12 as a default value. So as per 12 interest rate for this one, we got 5,400. You can also check 15,000 into number of years is 3. Okay, rate of interest is taken as 12 because we have not supplied any value. So default is 12 by 100. Now you can see 5,400, same value we got here. This is how the default arguments work. Next topic is arrow functions. So what is arrow function? It's a new style of a new way of creating functions or methods. Instead of following some regular syntax, we are trying to follow some new way of creating functions or methods. That's what the arrow functions. So normally if you want to create a function, we have to follow the syntax function. So this is the syntax for creating a function generally. This is the old way. But the new way is first you can give some default what is that arguments, parameters, arrow, some code here. So what you can notice, these parameters same, this code same. But the difference between these two, you can notice function keyword must be used here, but arrow operator should be used here. Arrow operator can type like equal to followed by greater than. Equal to greater than is arrow. That's why it is called arrow function. It's a function created through arrow. So that's why we have to call it as arrow function. So I will tell the advantage why we have to go for this. I will tell, don't worry about it. First, understand the syntax. Methods also you are able to create based on this arrow function syntax. Then you can call them as arrow methods instead of arrow function. The old way to create the method is just you can have a method name, parameters, some code. The new way is method name is equal to the same thing. Okay. So the difference between function and method, first of all, is a function is a loose function which is not a part of the class, but method is a function present inside the class. If it is not a part of the class, you call it as a function. If it is a part of the class, you call it as a method. Methods are called only through objects. Functions can be called directly. Okay. So first I will show an example on this, then I will explain about the importance or necessity of this, what is the benefit it is offering. So let's take arrow functions .ts. Okay, let's have a function. The regular function look like this. Function call me is the name of the function. And here we are just displaying thanks for calling me. Okay, let's compile this. tsc arrow functions.ts. So it has generated arrow functions.js file, and that file only we are importing into arrow functions.html. But even though the code is imported, it's not executing, it's not showing any output in this console because we have created the function, but we have not called. We must call it compulsory, like this. So by calling this, then only it will execute this particular function, otherwise not. Remember this. Okay, so we have called it only one time, so it has executed only one time. That's fine. You can also call multiple times, that's of course. But the point is about the this keyword here. If you print the this keyword, the this keyword by definition refers to the current object. By default, for all the functions, the current object is the window. That means the window object is represented in the current working browser window. That's default in JavaScript. Same, of course, in TypeScript. By default, this keyword refers to the window. But in case if you talk about a method, this keyword by default refers to the current object of the current class. That this keyword context will automatically change. For example, see, in case if you have a class, suppose the class name is sample, and you convert this call me as a method, that is simply remove the function keyword, that's it. And now here we are going to create a new object for the sample class. So this will be equal to an object, or you can say an object is created really here. So that object is referred as this keyword here. The difference between new and this keyword is new creates an object. This refers to the same object. For one object only one time new, but for one object every time you can use this keyword multiple times. So that is the reason if you just call this call me method, that this keyword will display the current object of the current class, that is it will print one object of the sample class. It is printing object. It includes the sample related properties. What you can say, for example, x 10, y 20, for example. So now we can notice x and y values are printed because it's an object of the current working class, that is sample. So, but sometimes accidentally, if you call this particular method through asynchronous approach, that this keyword context may change. That's what the problem we have. What is the meaning of context changing? That this keyword may refer to another object instead of referring to the current object of the current class. It happens only when you call the method through asynchronous approach. Asynchronously means by using add event listener, or by using set timeout or set interval, or by using Ajax. So we will take one example of the add event listener. Suppose we have a button. So we have a button. When the user clicks on the button, we are going to call this particular method. So what you can try to say, how to get that button, document.get element by id of button1 dot add event listener, event name clicker, and s dot call me. What is the meaning of this? I am not able to call this call me method directly now. I am calling it indirectly when the user clicks on the button. Notice when the user clicks on the button, the browser will automatically call. I am not calling this call me method. Understand the words difference? I am not calling this call me method directly. I am just telling the browser, hey browser, call the call me method when the user clicks. So when the user really click on this particular uh, button, browser will call this particular method. So when I click on this button, since browser is calling that call me method directly, when I click on the button, browser is directly calling this particular method. I am not calling. That's why this keyword will refer to another object which is not representing the current object of the current class. That's why you can see that this keyword is equal to button, because the logic is who initiated the process? Button, right? I mean, when the user click on the button only the process is started, right? Indirectly the button is the caller of this method, right? So in that way, this keyword here refers to the button instead of it refers to the current object of the current class. That's why we cannot access the x and y values through this. So if you try to access this dot x or this dot y, it is not available in the button. It is not available in the button. That's why it will show errors. The basic point is that this keyword context changed. It is no way referring to the current object of the current class now. Alternatively, this keyword refers to the button. That is the reason the x and y values are refers to unknown. But I want to really access these properties, so it's impossible here. Since you don't have access to the current object of the current class, it's not possible to access the x value, y value. So that's the problem we have. But when this problem occurs, when you call the method indirectly by using add event listener, set timeout, set interval, or Ajax. So that situations, what you can try to do, we can alternatively prefer the arrow functions. Means the method name that is call me is equal to These brackets representing the parameters whichever you want to receive, followed by equal to greater than. You call equal to greater than as a arrow. So we can overall call it as arrow function, or you can say arrow method because it's a method. Now once we have converted into arrow method, now just execute the same thing. Now we can notice one surprising point because this keyword now really refers to the current object of the current class, and that's why x and y values 100% you can access. Even though we are calling the method through asynchronous approach by using add event listener, we have access to the current object. That's only possible through arrow functions. So that is one of the situations why we have to go for the arrow functions. So to summarize this, if you are using regular method syntax, that this keyword may refer to another object in case if it is called in asynchronous approach such as add event listener. To make it fixed, to make this keyword compulsory refer to the current object of the current class, even though it is called asynchronously, we must make it as arrow function. This is the summary of the arrow functions. Next one is let keyword. The let keyword use it to create block level variables. But already we have where keyword to create the variables, right? So where keyword only for global variables, or you can say local variables. But for block level variable, let keyword is introduced. Actually, earlier in JavaScript, there is no support for block level variables. With the let keyword, it is possible to create the block level variables. So first of all, what is this global, local, and block level variables? First, let us understand the global and local variables. Suppose we have a class called sample. In this, we have sample method, for example, method 1, and creating object for the sample class. Okay, now we can check. So we are creating object and calling the method. That's fine. Now, where some variable name, for example, it's a x equal to 100. Now this is called local variable. So this particular variable is accessible till end of this method. Means till here we are able to access this particular x variable. But this is only available up to end of the method. This is short-lived. Once this method is ended, automatically this variable will be deleted. But if you declare the same thing above the class in the first place, now this becomes as a global variable, and this is accessible inside the class or outside the class, everywhere till end of the program, till end of the file. We are able to access this particular variable without any restrictions. So that is a global variable. So this one already there in JavaScript. But which is really missing in JavaScript is a block level variable is missing. That is fulfilled through let keyword. See, block level variable means suppose we have a for loop I equal to 1 to 10 I plus plus. So this where I, where keyword we are using. Where keyword refers to the local variable. So this is the local variable. This I is available till end of this method. But generally it is expected to be up to end of the for loop. Once the for loop execution is completed, automatically this I should be deleted. That's we're expecting, but it's not happening. I value is still alive up to end of this method because the where keyword always refers to local variable if it is inside a method. That's why even though the for loop is over, we are able to access the I value, we can print it, we can do anything. By this, the for loop is over. Since where keyword refers to the local variable, the I value is available even after the for loop. That's why you can see I value is printing 11. It is not showing an error. It's valid 11. But in case if you change it as let keyword here, then it refers to the block level variable, which indicates up to end of the for loop only it is available. Once the for loop is over, the I value is unknown. That's why it is showing error also here. Notice cannot find the name I. It is showing error. Same error also you can see in the console. But if you forcefully execute it, now we got 11. Notice the error refers to the TypeScript boundary. Once it is converted into JavaScript, it is equal to a local variable. Means as soon as we are inside the TypeScript point of view, yes, block level variable supported. But once it is converted into JavaScript, once it becomes native JavaScript, the block level variables no longer supported, only local variables. So even though I value is an error here in TypeScript, in the JavaScript it is not an error. So we got 11 just like previous. Because let keyword even converting to where keyword internally, once it is converted into JavaScript, you can just check this. See, it is taken as a what is that? Let keyword, yes. Now we can see it is taken as where keyword instead of let keyword because there is no let keyword in JavaScript. Okay, so this is about the let keyword. Next, const used to declare constant values. Constant values means fixed values. Give me examples of constant. For example, number of months in year. Number of months in year is equal to 12, always 12. So this is an example of constant. That's why instead of using where keyword to declare this, replace it with const because you don't want to change it unintentionally, accidentally also you don't want to change this particular thing at any cost. Till end of the program it is same only. So whenever you are 100% sure that it's fixed value, you don't want to change it by mistake also, then you should go for the constant. If there is a possibility of changing, then you should not go for constant, let it be normal variables only. So let's take one example on this. So const number of months in year is equal to 12. It is of which type? Number type. Optionally we can specify the data type. So now we can check const.js, sorry, ts. Okay, now we can see 12, that's fine. Now the point is, are able to change this value or not? In TypeScript language, no, we cannot change. But in JavaScript, yes, we can change. Because there is no direct support for constants in JavaScript, so it is taken as a variable only. So in JavaScript, variables can be changed, right? So number of months in year is equal to 20, I said, suppose, for example. So in the TypeScript perspective, it is not possible because it's a constant. But still, if you forcefully compile it, even though we are getting errors, just to, if we can ignore this and execute this, yes, it is changed. Now we can see 20 instead of 12 because there is no constants in JavaScript. Okay, that is about the constants. So what are the concepts you are expecting, like let keyword, constant, all these things? These are referred to the TypeScript. So make sure we are not getting any compile time errors while compiling the TypeScript file, because if you ignore these errors, the entire concept will not be useful in the JavaScript point of view. Okay. Next, REST operator. There is an operator called three dots. Yes, really, it's three dots. It cannot be two dots, it cannot be four dots, it should be three dots only. Only three dots. Dot, dot, dot. That is called REST operator. It represents all remaining values. Generally, what you can say, rest of the days, you can say. What is the meaning of rest of the days? All remaining. It's like that, all rest, all remaining values, if you want to represent, you should go for the rest. So what is the meaning of all remaining? Let's try to understand with an example. Okay, suppose we have a class called sample with the method 1, and as usual we are creating an object for the sample class, call in the method. That's all fine. And in this one we are trying to pass many values, like so many values you can try to pass, no? So 5 values we have really supplied, so you should have 5 arguments here. Okay, 5 arguments, so that you can print respectively. So this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 has been given as A, B, C, D, E respectively. That's we can see the same values here. Fine. Now, what if I am not giving this? I'm not giving this. I'm just giving A and B only. In such cases, C, D, E is not found. That's why it's showing error. Even though forcefully printed, we are getting undefined in that cases. No, it is showing error also actually. C is not defined, it is saying. So it could be an error. Even though we are supplying the values, since you have not received them, the C, D, E are unknown here. Then how to receive these extra values which are you really pass, like 30, 40, 50? So what you can say, we have something called arguments. Arguments is a predefined keyword here. Arguments is a predefined keyword and it's a fixed name. The arguments representing all the arguments whichever have been received ever. That is including the AB and remaining also. So all these values, whatever supplied, it can be numbers, strings, everything represented as arguments object here. So 0 is 10, 1 is 20, and so on. In the object format, it is look like this. So we can access the each and every value one by one. For example, arguments of 0, arguments of 1, arguments of 2, like this we are able to access. But even say dynamically without even writing the parameter names above, like A, B, C, D, we are able to just write them directly. This feature also already available in JavaScript. Same works in TypeScript. It's not surprising actually. But the point is I want to receive only the remaining values which are not received through the variables. Then you should go for the rest operator. See, the arguments is representing all the arguments even that is received into AB, right? I don't want AB values because already these are received here. I want to get the remaining part. What is the remaining part? 30, 40, 50 only. I want to receive them individually. Then exactly you should go for rest operator. So we can just continue this. 3 dots C. 3 dots is called as rest operator. So rest operator followed by C. The C is representing all the remaining values as an array. So instead of using arguments, we can just use a C variable. The C variable represents remaining values, that is 30, 40, 50 as an array. So we can also print them individually, obviously. So C of 0, 1, 2 we can give. Whereas 0 means 30, 1 means 40, 2 means 50 here. So the rest operator is representing all the remaining values. In the real life, what you can say, all remaining days or rest of the days you can say. So the rest operator exactly same thing here, all remaining values. This is one type of usage in case of rest operator. I will show another way of using rest operator also. That is, so forget about this part. Second part I'm writing. That is, suppose we have an array. For example, South India is equal to Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore. Okay, this is what South India. Next term, North India is equal to Mumbai, New Delhi, and Pune. Now you want to combine all together. Then what will you do is that India is equal to, you want to say south plus north. So all the values from the south, comma, all the values for north. So here all the values from south are represented at a time. Plus all the values from north is represented. So both are combined into the single name, that is India. So if you can print India, you can see a unified array, a single array which contains all the data. So you can see a single array which contains all these values. This is another use of the rest operator. I'll show one more another way also. Another example, a different example of a rest operator, that is, actually that is also called as a destructuring. So destructuring, the topic name is destructuring. This topic we are going to demonstrate along with the combination of rest. Destructuring with rest. First we will show destructuring. Destructuring means we have an array and we want to get them into individual variables. Suppose we have city 1 is equal to south of 0, city 2 is equal to south of 1, city 3 equal to south of 2. So this process, instead of repeating the statements here, instead of writing many lines, we can do in a single statement. That is, just we can simply write like an array bracket here, followed by city 1, city 2, city 3, three variables here is simply equal to south. Yes, that's it. Now city 1 is equal to south of 0, city 2 equal to south of 1, city 3 equal to south of 2. This process happens internally here. So we did not write this statement. So we can print. So this process is actually called as a destructuring. Getting the values into loose variables from array is called as a destructuring. From the array, we are getting the values into the loose variables. So now we can see Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, 3 values are printed like this. Okay, that's fine. But now we also have one more. Suppose what you can say Madurai, Kochi also we have. So we have too many values. In such cases, we can use the rest operator here. See, we got only 3 values, right? Actually, we have 5, but we got only 3 because we have given only 3 values. Now, what you can say, cities, we have given extra variable cities prefixed with the rest operator. So the variable cities refers to all remaining cities, whatever you got. All remaining, whatever the remaining means, Madurai and Kochi. So the cities is equal to an array with Madurai and Kochi, because what are the values are really not received here, that remaining values are taken into which one? Cities. See, Hyderabad taken into city 1, Chennai into city 2, Bangalore into city 3 already received. So ignore them. All remaining values and number of values are received into cities. This will be an array. So this is the rest operator with a combination of destructuring. What I'm saying is this is a destructuring. This is a destructuring with the rest operator. Okay, so that's all about this.